right, everybody. Welcome to the Overheard podcast, recorded live in Banff. My name is Dan Rudel, and with me always,
we got Matty Rage. Let's go. What's good?
Matty Rage. What's going on? How was your week, brother?
Not bad, not bad. Busy. Band stuff. Played a couple DJ sets this weekend. Went real well. Tried out some new material and
nice. I did check one out. You posted one on Facebook that I was getting into. Some pretty awesome stuff.
That was a pretty wild one. I never usually play a lot of dub, but gotta try something new, man. Keep it fresh, you know. How was your week?
My week was pretty sweet.
Yeah.
It had been a while, but finally went into Her Knowing, which is my partner, Natalie Miller's practice this week for a treatment that I haven't had in a long time. So usually my go-to is the foot and facial reflexology.
Nice.
Always at least an hour and a half, if not more. Awesome stuff. I'm not one of the guys, like I'm not one for getting massages usually.
All right.
But her treatments are next level, by far the best I've ever had. So
That's
I got to
wild.
give her a big shout out. Thanks, babe, for treating me real nice over my days off this week.
Nice.
With some nice treatments. You can follow her on Instagram at Her Knowing. You can book from there. All that info's there. So if you got some aches and pains or you just need some time to relax,
let's go
check it out for sure.
Oh yeah, everybody needs a little rest and relaxation, as they say, after staying on your feet all day at work. You know how it goes.
Well, for sure, with work and then with putting the golf swing back into play as well.
You're just crushing your back, are you?
Yeah, definitely. We're definitely needing some TLC in between rounds for sure. So I got to give her a big shout out. Thanks.
Well,
babe.
we also have kind of a new setup, I guess. Now we got the old couch deluxe here.
Yeah,
we got rid of the table and went for a little more chill vibe, I guess.
With the Defending Awesome crew, big shout out to them for the merch.
Hell yeah, that was a big party last week.
Yeah, great party and a great vibe.
Awesome.
I think I like bringing it to the couch, a little more comfortable, relaxed vibe going on.
Larchie likes it as well. She'll be up here chilling at some point.
Larchie has been enjoying it, definitely. So back to this week. Big guest this week.
Oh, big time.
Very excited to announce Parks Canada. We had a Parks Canada representative in here with us earlier today. We pre-recorded a great little interview with Natalie Fay.
She's a legend.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
great
nice.
time. Super nice, super knowledgeable. We're looking forward to doing more episodes with them in the future. We discussed a little bit about wildlife safety, a little bit about ecological sustainability. We talked about the bison.
Tourist interaction, with wildlife and kind of how to navigate that whole situation, being that we're in a national protected space and there's wildlife everywhere. I saw 3 deer on the way down to the hostel today. So
yeah, kind of navigating that fine line between tourism and ecology. Of course, Banff being Canada's first and premier national park, we take in most of the income that pays these people, right? So trying to inform you all, tourists and locals alike, on how to navigate wildlife this coming summer. So we're going to cut to that interview now, and we'll see you back in a few minutes.
Yeah, and we'll see you guys in the chat. Cheers.
All right. Welcome, everyone, to the Overheard podcast, recorded live in Banff. We got a very, very special guest this week. We got a representative from Parks Canada Banff Field Office, Natalie Fay, with us. How are you doing today?
Hey, guys. I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing, Dan?
Well, I'm doing great. We can't forget about my lovely co-host, Matty Ray.
Oh, yeah.
Of course, always joining us.
What's going on?
So we're here today to talk with Natalie about a few different things that involve Parks Canada. The main thing being ecological conservation, as well as the initiatives that Parks Canada is involved with.
My favorite topics.
Your favorite topics. Let's get right into it. A little bit about yourself first. Where are you from? What brought you to Banff?
That's a great question. Yeah, like many of my community members here, I am an import to Banff. I've moved around a bit. I'm originally from Southern Ontario, Sarnia, and then lived a good chunk of my 20s in Ottawa, and then landed here in 2017. So yeah, it's been a wild ride, and I've bounced back and forth between Calgary and here, but back in Banff for the last year and a half.
Nice. What brought you out here originally?
Work.
Nice.
Yeah, Parks is great because I actually started for Parks in Ottawa at their national office and then got the opportunity to come out here. And I think like a lot of people, you just don't say no to that.
No,
for sure.
Heck no. That's a non-pass upable offer, I guess.
Yeah. That was kind of one of my follow-up questions. Like, do you get to choose where you go, or do they kind of the posts come up and you apply for them in that sense, like a normal job?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. It kind of depends on what you're doing. Because if you're in a position like, you know, a warden or something like that, I think you have more of a chance of getting assigned. Whereas if you're like me and you do kind of public outreach and communications, you apply on the jobs that you're looking for. So for me, it was a choice, which was great.
Amazing. And you just touched on it. Your role with Parks Canada is public outreach and communication, which is what we're here to do today. When did you start working with Parks Canada?
Feels like many moons ago, but it was June 2009. So I guess coming up on 15 years, which seems crazy.
That's
to
cool.
Me.
That's cool. So they must be doing something right if you're sticking around then, eh?
Yeah. I mean, I will say that like having, you know, come up a bit in like the Ottawa public service realm where it's very typical for people to kind of bounce around from different jobs. I would say at Parks Canada, we're kind of a special gem in the public service because you get a lot of lifers. Like people work with parks and we very rarely leave because it's such a great place to work.
I mean, I think so. I think those Parks Canada positions are definitely coveted as far as government work goes. My mom, government worker. I'm from Ottawa originally.
Right on.
I grew up in Orleans. So my mom worked for the federal government her whole life. And of course, I know that bouncing around different departments and that she was an office manager. So definitely more brick and mortar, I would say, as far as government work goes. But that's awesome. Parks Canada kind of definitely one of the more sought after positions.
Yeah, I mean, you know, there are different people where it's like some things are just a job, but I really think for Parks Canada team members, it's more than that. Like, I know for me, I can say I truly believe in what we do and getting to live and work in a place like Banff. It becomes really evident in our day to day why what we do is so important.
What made you want to work for Parks originally?
Well,
at the
very early beginning, I would say I needed to pay the bills. If I'm being honest. Got a job out of university because I needed one. But I would say what's kept me with Parks is probably the people I work with. Like some of the most dedicated people that I've ever met and insanely talented, and the content never gets dry. Like I'm the kind of person that doesn't like to be bored and I like learning. And I can tell you that even 15 years later, I learned something new every single day.
Well, I think we can attest to that too. Doing this podcast, we're learning new stuff constantly. And, you know, being in Banff as long as we have, same thing. You're constantly learning about the town. It's constantly evolving. There's new issues coming up. But a big part of what Parks Canada does, of course, big part of your job is educating people about wildlife safety, which I think has already started with the last long weekend. I'm sure there were a few instances. I'm sure we can't get into details, but I'm sure the incident report is starting to fill up as the summer is approaching.
The old-fashioned feed a bear sandwich. Yeah, I've heard of that. I had a guy when I was working at the liquor store ask me where to get a deli sandwich, and I was like, "Oh, dude, go to Coyotes. So good, the ham and Swiss." He goes, "Oh no, just like something cheap that I can feed to the bears." I'm like, "Please don't do that. Please, just please for you and everyone else's safety, don't do that."
That was the right answer. Thank you.
So what are some of the more common wildlife encounters that tourists and locals are going to face here in Banff National Park? Yeah,
I mean, that's a great question. And you don't have to be in Banff, whether you're visiting or living here for very long before you run into something, depending on where you live. In Banff, we're very lucky to have this amazing protected area that's home to hundreds of species of wildlife. But I would say the most common encounters, I mean, I laugh when I mention this, but like the ground squirrels, the amount of people I see taking photos of ground squirrels always kind of amazes me.
Absolutely.
But they are part of it, you know? So I'm going to get into talking about why animals need space, but we're also talking about like really little to like really big.
Absolutely. Like we were kind of having a little chuckle last night, me and my partner Nat, on our way to the comedy show at the Banff Park Lodge. We stumbled upon a couple that were taking a picture of a magpie like it was some like exotic animal, which is, you know, everyone's here for the first time. I get it. It's summer. There's lots of new visitors. We're kind of having a little laugh.
Yeah. Well, and it is because like, you know, as locals, we're like, oh, you know, like it's a magpie or even deer because we see them all over the place. That's one of the really common animals you'll see around town. And I often tell people when I first moved here, I learned really quickly not to walk around with your head down looking at your cell phone, because those deer do not care if you're coming down the sidewalk. But
Not at all.
Yeah,
not at
that's
all.
also a huge part of it, is making sure that you're alert, because even something that seems docile like a deer can be agitated, and then that can trigger like aggressive behavior that nobody
for sure.
wants. This is the time of year where, like you mentioned, we've got visitors coming back. Locals are getting out. We're all coming out of hibernation. We're out in the valley recreating. And yeah, like you have a high likelihood of running into something, whether it be deer, elk, and possibly even a black bear or a grizzly. Those are things that commonly, like we live in a national park, and sometimes that can be we can lose sight of that because we live in a town and it feels very towny.
For sure. It does feel safe within the town boundary in that sense. You don't really expect to run into, especially the predatory animals in the town of Banff. But it does happen. I mean, I know just down the block near one of the hostels a couple years back, there was a bear just roaming around through the town. It's happened multiple times since I've lived here.
We had a posting on the front of our building here one day, said grizzly bear out front, and someone had a picture of it right on the corner where the stop sign is. Just standing there munching dandelions or something. And
bears doing bear things.
Yeah. And I'm like, well, we're not going to go that way to work today. So I just kind of went back inside. I'm like, I'll be down there in like an hour. I'm just going to give this guy a minute to clear out. But it's
for
wild.
sure.
It's right outside your front door. You know what I mean? It's awesome.
And one thing I think that a lot of people don't realize is, especially this time of the year, as the valley bottoms are thawing first, it attracts the wildlife to come down to feed, because it's the only place where they can feed at the moment. So we obviously have a concentration of wildlife in spaces where people are, unfortunately.
Absolutely. And, you'll see the warnings on the placards around town at various times of year. Like right now, we're really keeping an eye out for calving season. So elk are out there, they're having babies, and they're super protective of their babies. And the thing about elk is that they'll actually stash their newborns away in bushes or like on the side of a trail, and then they'll go forage, but they're always around. So that's why it's also super important, to keep your dogs on leash, because it's not about your dog's recall, which I'm envious of if your dogs have good recall, but it's also the fact that dogs trigger aggressive behavior. So it's not that it'll come back to you, it's that it may come back to you with an undesirable friend that you don't want following it back to you, or trigger aggression in an elk, and then both, you, your pet, and possibly the animal itself can get hurt.
Absolutely. I have witnessed one of these acts of aggression from an elk one day on Tunnel Mountain. I was hiking there during calving season, and just like you mentioned, Mama elk must have had her calf hidden in a juniper bush not too far away. People unknowingly kind of walking up, and she experienced some defensive behavior, standing up, huffing and puffing. And then someone got too close on the trail, tried to squeeze by. And then, of course, the elk, charged them a couple times and got right up in their face. And I mean, it was not
did it get them? Or
it did not hit them or anything.
Oh, that's lucky.
Thankfully.
No
yeah.
So no one had to be called. It was just kind of a close encounter. But that kind of woke me up, because I was always, you kind of lose that fear of elk, being a local, getting around them so much. And again, some times of the year, they're very docile. They want nothing to do with you. But this time of the year, watch out.
On that note, what kind of measures are in place to educate tourists on these encounters and what to do, how to avoid them?
Yeah. And I mean, the education definitely is our first line of defense and a full-time job, which is why I'm here. But we do, Parks Canada works really hard to share helpful information for people in their trip planning cycle. So we have our social media channels that are almost exclusively at this point dedicated to either how to get around the park safely, or what to do, how to be a responsible park user. Because as we saw, throughout the pandemic, which maybe one of the silver linings was it got us all outside a lot more.
Absolutely.
So more people are coming to national parks, but they're also new users to national parks. So we do a lot of work in putting, good, trustworthy information out on our website, on our social media platforms. And we also work really closely with community partners like the town of Banff and Banff Lake Louise Tourism to get these messages out. So no matter where the visitor is interacting, whether it be trip planning online or coming into one of our visitor centers, that they can get that info. And then I think locals, like as local community members, we care about this place. And I think if we're well informed, we can also do some of that education when we're out.
100%. One program that used to happen, I'm not sure if it still does. There used to be the ambassador program here in the town of Banff. And that was kind of a big educational program for locals. So you'd go in, they would have like perks. So basically, you got a whole bunch of money off your season pass.
Yeah, it was
you
cool.
got to try all the local.
Yeah, they had like all the Brewster, like the gondola,
all the sightseeing
yeah.
stuff, and then you had to basically sit through this 2-hour demonstration of how to, encourage people to enjoy the park safely and how to approach these situations. So again, great stuff coming from the town of Banff, from Parks Canada, everyone working together. So keep an eye on those social media outlets, Facebook, Instagram, tons of great information on there. I know since I've interacted with Parks Canada social media lately, I'm getting tons of these. So like boating safety, fishing safety, all types of stuff. So if you want to get more information, you can always give them a follow on Facebook, Instagram, and all the social media platforms of
We'd
your
love
choice.
that. That's great.
Moving on, say there is an encounter. You're seeing someone doing something that they shouldn't be doing with wildlife or in the park system. How should people respond if they're out there witnessing these events, either with wildlife or with, ecological conservation, picking up rocks or moving things or...
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think, the first line of what we can do is, as locals, if we're out there and we're witnessing these things, I think the number one thing is always safety. Like, no matter what your next steps are, make sure that you're going to be safe in that.
Of course.
And sometimes that means calling Parks Canada or at our dispatch number, which is available on our website. And I can give it to you guys later if you want to post it too. But like calling dispatch if you're seeing like really unsafe situations. Like there's actually a good example that we've seen kind of the last couple years when the ice thins out on the Bow River. Sometimes elk can fall through and become trapped. And a lot of the times they would likely get out on their own or not. Like there is circle of life kind of considerations here. But when that happens in a really busy place like off Central Park, we make sure, our human wildlife coexistence staff get out there and make sure that the situation is safe. And most of the time it's to avoid people trying to go in after the elk. Where then we have a very real situation of both a person and wildlife at risk. So those are the kind of situations where I would say don't try to be a hero. There is someone's job who will come and deal with that. But if you're out in the park and like, for example, if you're at Cascade Ponds and you notice someone's packing up their picnic and leaving garbage behind, a friendly reminder like, hey, this is a national park. There's wildlife here and we don't want them to access unnatural food sources because that risks, there's risks to the animal that creates undesirable behavior and other things can happen. So I think friendly reminders, I don't think that necessarily like yelling at people never really gets us very far, quite frankly. But I think those educational reminders, but then again, if you do see something really unsafe, like someone approaching elk or an animal and they're not listening to friendly reminders, then I would say always call dispatch and then we will send a Parks Canada team member out there to address it. Awesome. Yeah, we definitely don't want to see those unsafe situations happening in the park. We know they do, but it's those friendly reminders because people don't react well to yelling.
Well, and I think a lot of people as well, just their mindset is that they're in the national park and they're in a town site. It's like these animals are here like you're at a petting zoo. It's just, I get that kind of vibe sometimes. You see people just walking right up to elk. I'm like, dude, that thing is like 900 pounds. It will hurt you. Like you need to get away from it. It's just that's not the thing to do. And they're like, well, is it an amusement park? It's not an amusement park. It's a national park.
And those antlers are sharp on those elk, let me tell you.
Nobody wants that encounter. They may not know it. And I think a lot of times it's really just purely not knowing. I don't think people are malicious on purpose. I just think that they legitimately don't know any better because they've never been to a wild space. And, Banff National Park, like all the mountain parks, are, very accessible. Like it's a couple-hour drive from major cities. So, if you've never left the city and you're coming out to the park for the first time, your only experience may be like the Calgary Zoo. And that's very setting, obviously, than a national park.
Great point. One of the initiatives that's kind of been put forward, I remember from the planning forum, is the new signage on all the picnic tables and recreation areas that's going in this year. I actually saw some already down at Johnson's Canyon. So all that stuff already in effect. So it's cool to see kind of Parks Canada taking that initiative throughout the years to continually educate our guests in different ways, right? Like that's a pretty creative way that I thought. Outreach, get them right at the source while they're there, enjoying their lunch, recreating, and get the message across right there. It was a great idea.
Exactly. And we've moved a lot to like visual signage over words because obviously our visitors are coming from all over the world. So we need to find ways of communicating in that kind of universal language.
100%. Great point.
That makes sense. I mean, pictogram, real easy to read. You just got to print it in one language. That's it. Just picture form. It's awesome.
Moving on, what are some of the steps that are in place to minimize interaction with tourists and the wildlife that we love here in the Banff National Park?
Yeah, we definitely do a lot of work in that regard. So we have our wonderful campground staff and day use area staff from the visitor experience team. So they're always out in the park, especially this time of year. We have our full roster of staff out in full force chatting with people.
Yeah, so they're just like educational.
Yeah, educational and compliance as well. So you'll see them out at the day use areas, going up to picnic tables, talking to people, making sure they know the rules. They'll tell them, anecdotes, stories, and just kind of putting that education in a fun way. Why it's important, because nobody wants to hear just put your garbage away. Like, our parents tell us that, we know that, but it's the why. So it's bringing that why is this important forward. So we've got a team in town, we've got a team at day use areas. We also have our Living with Wildlife team, which is really awesome. And they tend to come into action when you see things that we call them bear jams or wildlife jams. When you see all the cars parked on the side of the road, or sometimes it's even one car pulls over and then it creates this domino cascading event of everyone pulling over. So our Living with Wildlife team will get out there and encourage people to kind of snap their photo, stay in their car, move along, and just teaching them how to engage properly at a safe distance with wildlife.
Right. Yeah. You don't want to be walking out of your car and like approaching an elk that's just sitting there eating. That's not a good. Not
recommended. No, I always say if you see an animal, go the opposite direction. Nothing in you should make you want to move towards it.
Yeah. It might be a different story if you're like out in the woods and you were hiking and you weren't in the town site. Like you'd be like, oh no, I'm out here by myself. In the town site, you're like, oh, it's just a pet. We got it. Let's get a picture.
Well, I think the main focus, which is cool, is boots on the ground that are there to educate people in a friendly way. Like it's like you said, it's more about education. Or what was it put to me one time? Maybe it wasn't from you, but it was from someone from Parks Canada. They're more about education than they are about enforcement, right? Like if it's blatant, of course, enforcement will take place.
Absolutely.
But education is the big thing. We all live here. We all love this place. We want tourists to be able to come here and enjoy it equally, right? Like I'm not from here. You're not from here. We all get to come and enjoy the national parks of Canada. And Banff being the premier one.
Absolutely. Most loved.
Banff's first and most loved, most frequented.
Yeah.
So we're looking forward to welcoming millions of tourists this summer once again. Now, wildlife safety is not the only thing that Parks Canada does. Ecological conservation is a big part of what they do as well. Can you tell us a bit about what's going on lately with ecological conservation?
Yeah, definitely. So right now we have, I'll talk about, I guess, some highlights because there's constantly work going on and I probably don't even know all of the projects that are happening at any given moment.
Well, I think at the forum, they must have mentioned at least 7 or 8 that were either ongoing or completed, which is phenomenal.
Yeah, it's huge. Yeah, our resource conservation team, which is the team that does a lot of our ecological monitoring and work, is incredible, and they do awesome stuff. And I take great pride in getting to tell the stories of the work they do because they're really the ones on the ground doing it. So a couple things in recent years that you guys have likely heard of. We've got the bison reintroduction. So the 5-year pilot ended last year. So it's been 6 years now that we've had bison back on the landscape in Banff National Park. Previous to that, it had been over 100 years.
Really, that long?
Since they were,
crazy.
Absolutely. So that was a really historic moment, and Parks Canada has worked very closely with our Indigenous partners through our Indigenous Advisory Circle and consultations. And what we heard after the 5-year pilot last year was basically like there was very strong desire both from Canadians, stakeholders, and Indigenous peoples to keep bison on the landscape. So that's where we're at with that, and it's fantastic. The herd was peaked over 100 animals last year. I
remember
wicked.
Being blown away by the numbers and how good they were doing. Are they still in an enclosure, or how is that working? Are they meant to be set to roam free eventually?
Yeah, so they are free roaming bison at this point. We do have kind of on the eastern boundary of the park, there are certain fences, and there's not a fence as like a contiguous fence, but there are kind of pinch points where we allow other animals to move freely, but it hopefully slows down a bison. But we haven't had any bison wander out of the park in a number of years. So that's been great. And they're doing really well on the landscape. I haven't heard yet where calving is at, because it is calving season for them right now. So we don't know how many new ones we've got on the landscape, but we hit over 100 last year, and it's going. So they're doing really well, and it's just really fascinating to see them adapt to the mountainous landscape that they're in now.
That they once were, and now we're back
and now
to,
they're
which
back.
is pretty awesome. For those that don't know, where are the bison? Like, of course, we're not going to tell you where they're calving. We don't want people going out and bothering that process.
Yeah. To be fair, it would be
they're
hard.
far north from the town of Banff, right?
Yes.
Like, a lot of people get the Banff National Park confused with the town of Banff, and they think, oh my God, there's bison roaming around the town of Banff now. Like, not the case.
Wouldn't that be something? Yes, no, the bison are very much in the backcountry of the park. They are in the area of the Panther Valley, which is north of the Minnewanka area, if you kind of drew a line. And that's where, like in Banff, for us, we do our best we tell the story of the bison through a variety of ways, because they shouldn't be seen as an attraction, right? Which is also why they are in the backcountry in habitat that is suitable for them. And we know that, while there are other national parks in North America where you can go and get up close with the bison, and we see that's just not the way it is in Banff, but they're still here. They're on the landscape, and that's what's important. Yeah, it would take, anyways, they're not easily accessible. It's not an easy day hike. They're way back there.
For sure.
It's going to be a ways out. It's not the average person is not going out there.
Have you seen those videos from certain parks down in the United States of people getting too close? That's, I think,
if you've ever seen that one video of how far they can throw an entire human, you just don't go near them, because it's impressive to say the least. But
what are some of the distances people should keep from wildlife, since we're kind of on that topic?
Yeah, that's a great question. So general rule of thumb is for ungulates, and in layman's terms, that's anything with hooves. So deer, elk, sheep, at least 30 meters. So like 3 school bus lengths.
Cool.
That's always a good.
That's more than I would expect.
Safe distance.
For sure.
And sometimes we all know, like, walking home, I've definitely encountered an elk that was less than 30 meters, but that means I take the long way home. So get yourself to that distance, and get your long lens. And then for anything, that a carnivore fuzzy with teeth, I often say, so bears, if you happen to see a cougar, which is really unlikely but rare, but could still happen, or wolves, at least 100 meters. So that's
100 meters.
10 school bus lengths. Get your long lens out for your camera for those ones. But that's just really to give it's not only for your safety, it's for the animal safety, because they're wild animals. They need a lot of space to thrive, and we don't want them to get used to human presence.
I think that's the biggest point, right? Is in keeping our distance, is to have these wild animals not get used to us.
Yeah.
Because once they do so, they obviously become emboldened, get closer to us over time, and then they become nuisance animals.
Exactly.
We're all here to see wildlife. We all love encountering them, but always make sure to keep your distance. Thank you for those stats. That's great for people to know. Even some of those, like, much farther than I would
much farther than you would
exactly.
think. And, like, obviously things happen where you can, come around a corner and see a bear off in the distance that be closer than 100 meters. But I definitely encourage you to take a couple step backs, because usually they'll forage and move on, but just give them space. Like, if we're out hiking, usually we're not in a rush. We're usually out there to bag a peek or to just kind of hang out and have a relaxing day. So there's no need to rush by.
That's a great point. I think it's their home first. We should probably give them the right of way on the land.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah, don't rush them through dinner. Just let them have it.
Yeah. I know. I don't like being rushed through dinner.
No, nobody
does.
Cranky
too.
Nobody does. Oh goodness. What are how does park balance a need for visitor, entrance into the park and wildlife encounters? Like, how do you balance that out? Like, how do you say too many people is too many people for the wildlife we're trying to conserve? Like, is there?
That's a great question. And at Parks Canada, and that is kind of the challenge and the beauty of it all at once, is that we have this dual mandate where we are committed to not only maintaining but restoring ecological integrity of these protected areas, but also to provide Canadians and visitors with opportunities to enjoy them, because we know when someone makes a special connection to a place like Banff, they want to see it protected. So there is that kind of benefit to having visitors that care about this place, because they'll care about what happens to it in the future. How do we do it, though? And that's really the question, is that we have, here, especially in Banff, if you look at it, we've got upwards of, 95% of the park. I'm probably butchering the stats, but it's upwards of 95% is type 2 wilderness, which is very kind of high quality wilderness habitat.
I'd say
for wildlife. I think sometimes being in the town, we might forget how big this park actually is. And there's a lot of really great ecological indices that tell us that the park is healthy and the wildlife are doing well. So, but to keep it that way, this is also why we spend so much time in day use areas where visitors tend to spend most of their time. So obviously those of us that, I'm a backcountry user myself, and I know that even in the middle of August, I can hike for an hour and then not see a soul for a couple days if I'm so inclined and prepared to do so. Don't go out into the backcountry unless you know what you're doing. But but having said that, visitors do tend to congregate in the same areas. So that's 100%. Why we and that's okay, because those are already developed areas, but it's still part of the national park. So that's why we do all this education to make sure that people are putting away their garbage when they're at Lake Minnewanka Day Use Area or Cascade Ponds, and ensuring that wildlife have the space they need. But that's why you'll also see us put up things like wildlife warnings or area closures if we need to.
Absolutely. I did share some in our promotional post for this episode as well. And you'll see them as the big red posters at the trailhead, or even covering the maps and stuff of the area. Yeah. So you cannot miss them. If you're going into a closed area, always big fines. And of course, these closures are there for your safety. So make sure you're obeying them out there when you're visiting Banff National Park. I know there's one area that's like constantly closed in the summer months, and it's the northern trail of Lake Minnewanka, right? Because it's a high bear
and
traffic area. They used to allow hikers, I believe, in there, and then they've stopped over the years just to give them their space once again. So.
Absolutely. And that's the same thing with the Bow Valley Parkway seasonal closure between dusk and dawn. So no vehicles or people can enter the Bow Valley Parkway during that time, this time of year, because it's such critical habitat for wildlife movement. Because as you mentioned earlier, with the valley bottoms thawing and kind of regrowing first, that's where they're going. And then it's also important denning for wolves, another critical species here in the park. So yeah, the area closures aren't a suggestion. They're not there because we want to ruin your hike or anything like that. Like, there really is a reason behind it. So it's important to stay out of it and not become complacent either. Because, sometimes, I'll talk with my friends and it's like, oh, well, like, that's for visitors. And there's
that's for everyone.
It's for everyone. I promise.
The whole park. Anyone that's in here. Yeah. Oh God, that's awesome.
It doesn't apply to me because I know how it is. But it's really important. And it's also the law. Like, that's really what it comes down to.
Right. Absolutely. There is enforcement, not, by choice, or well, not primarily, but it is there if you do disobey that signage. So, and I know the penalties are not low. It's not a slap on the wrist. It's not like jaywalking here. You're encroaching on protected areas. So keep that in mind. Obey all the signage out there.
Well, on that note, is there any specific guidelines or regulations that visitors need to know before they're coming in for the summer, or, for the weekend, or just for a little day trip?
Yeah, I would say absolutely. The Parks Canada website is really great. We keep all of our area closures and warnings up to date there, so it's easy to even just if you put it in your internet search bar, current restrictions, Banff National Park, and it will comes right up. Same thing if you're looking up trails. Like, whenever you're looking up trails on our website, you can see if there's any trail notices, because depending where you're going in the Alpines right now, like, there can still be snow, there can still be avalanche risk.
Big time.
That's all things that we need to keep in mind. It's not just the wildlife, it's also the natural hazards. So we note all that on our website, which is fantastic. And it's a really helpful tool in trip planning. So I would say check that out, because at any time of the year, there could be different warnings coming up or coming down. So that's the best way to stay on top of it.
Cool. 100%, especially with trip planning. I know a couple of years ago, me and my partner, we were planning a trip to the Bow Hut, and I think it was June 7th and 8th. We had the hut booked for.
Oh, so lots of snow up there.
Exactly. We're getting our stuff ready. We didn't think we're going to go hike to the Bow Hut on June 7th, right? So it was advised to us that we stop at the info center in Lake Louise and check in with the wardens to let them know that you're going.
Yeah.
So we stop in there, whatever. We talk to the nice people at the information booth. They get us on the phone with the parks warden, and they're like, okay, so you're going to the Bow Hut. We're like, yeah. They're like, are you taking skis or snowshoes? We're like, neither. We're hiking. They go, no, you're not. You'll be calling us in 4 hours. Like, you'll be stuck. You're never going to make it. And again, we wouldn't have known. We would have just gone on the trail and started and eventually turned that around or got stuck. So I think they saved us a massive headache that day.
Yeah, I mean, stopping into the any of the info centers, whether it's the Parks Canada Info Center on Banff Ave or the one at Lake Louise, really helpful. Our staff are always happy to answer questions and help people because we get it. There's a lot to take in when you're coming to Banff. You know, even just like today, we've chatted about like a number of different things, and it can be a lot for people.
Right.
But I do think one of the big things for me anyways that I want people to know is that if you're coming to Banff and if you're planning on getting out and hiking, and that's even like if you're taking the trail to like Cave and Basin National Historic Site, have bear spray and know how to use it.
Oh, for sure.
Like that is really key. You know, I carry bear spray all the time. Like I walk my dog in the morning, and even though I'm going on, you know, the same trail I go every day, we've never had a direct encounter with a carnivore, but do we see deer and elk all the time? Yes. And of course, you know, I keep my dog on a leash, as we all should, but you never know what kind of behavior is going to happen. You don't know what kind of animal is going to walk by. So you just always need to be prepared. Better to be prepared and not need it than need it and not have it.
100%. I know I'm a golfer, so I'm going down to the golf course all the time. I always got my bear spray on the backpack because on that road, like, especially early morning, late night.
There's a lot of elk out there usually.
And of course, if you're hanging out where the predatory animal's food is, you're probably eventually going to run into a predatory animal. One of the big things that I think people don't realize, or maybe just don't know as well, is they're not supposed to remove things from the national park. Taking rocks or stones or, you know, not banned specifically shells or flowers or something like that. That's one thing I think a behavior that we see a lot from tourists that just don't know. And even some locals don't know that if you're out there on a cool hike and you find a sweet rock, you're not supposed to take it with you. You got to leave it there. If everyone goes and takes one rock after thousands of people walking that same trail, there's no rocks left on that trail. So
I couldn't have said it better myself. Honestly,
you nailed that.
Nailed it.
Yeah, you nailed it.
You must have been on our website.
Well, no, there's antler sheds as well. Like you might encounter those when you're hiking out. Like very important to not take those items. As cool as it is to have one hanging in your house, big fines associated taking those out of the park.
Absolutely, it is illegal to remove anything from the national park. So whether that be the walking stick you used on a trail or a cool rock, leave the cool rock for the next person to see. You know, because like you said, if everyone took something, what would be left?
There would be nothing left. After 4 million,
exactly. When we're talking
summer.
4 million visitors every single year. Yes,
that's a big pile of rocks. I can tell you right now.
Definitely. Back to ecological conservation. What are some of the successful initiatives? I know they talked about one specifically with fish or fishing.
I love fish. Fish is like, it's the year of the fish for me. So right now, what we've done over the last couple years, and actually I guess I'll take it back a little further. Those that were in and around kind of the Bow River at the time of the flood will remember that it washed out a lot of roadways, a lot of culverts. But what that did, and what I'm talking about here specifically, is Cascade Creek. So Cascade Creek runs Cascade Ponds, kind of runs up in the Minnewanka area. And what that flood, it kind of moved the needle forward on conservation because historically the flow levels were quite reduced in that river. And it was no longer the best habitat that it could be for native trout species like the West Slope cutthroat trout. So what we've done since that historic flood is we've reworked with TransAlta. They're a project partner on this, and we've restored essentially Cascade Creek to a flow level and habitat that is now suitable for West Slope cutthroat trout.
That's
and we
awesome.
are now at the stage in that process where we are actually planning to reintroduce the trout to Cascade Creek, which I am super jazzed about. Species reintroduction is huge. There's so many benefits, and native trout. Banff National Park has some of the few pockets left of these genetically pure and viable Westfield cutthroat trout species. So yeah, we're really excited about that. So stay tuned for more on that, because that's hopefully coming later this summer.
Amazing. I know you've never been able to fish like that whole section. Like you've never been able to fish out there. Is like I've been fishing out here for like 10 years, and it's always that's closed. There's certain areas that are just kind of permanently closed, and that being one of them. Like I've never seen it open, so that's cool that it's getting back to normal out there.
Yeah, we're getting there.
Big work coming from Parks Canada as far as the fish goes. I know, great stuff from them. One last question. What advice would you give visitors to ensure that they can enjoy the park safely when they come? Just educate themselves, basically.
Yeah, I mean, plan your trip. I sometimes feel like an old broken record when I'm like, look into the place that you're going before you come. But, you know, Banff National Park is... it's not just your usual destination. I do think, you know, if people, when they're coming here a lot of times it's a bucket list trip. So
absolutely,
you want to plan your bucket list trip properly and make sure you get the most out of it. And especially in the summer, that means planning in advance, both for knowing how to behave in a national park, pick up your garbage, don't get too close to wildlife, carry your bear spray, but also get your reservations in advance. Like you want to go to Moraine Lake, you want to go to Lake Minnewanka, you want to go to these day use areas. It is busy in the summer, so if you don't want to be disappointed,
you're going to be waiting.
Don't be disappointed. Plan your trip.
That's for sure.
Exactly.
Well, I think kind of the advent of social media, and especially like you mentioned, Moraine Lake being so popular on social media these days, no one shares a picture of 200 people getting the same shot. They always share the picture where there's no one. So I think that the perception when you're planning your trip to Banff is that you're going to get there and you're going to have it to yourself, which is not the case in the summer.
Not the case. And we're doing, you know, we try, at least on our social media channels, is, you know, we've started no longer showing those like iconic vistas. Because yes, at a certain time in the day, maybe you can get that. But realistically, we need to show this place like it really is, so that people aren't shocked when they get here, right?
Basically.
Like most of us work in the service industry. We're here to support the tourists, the visitors that are coming. And, you know, we don't like dealing with disappointed clients or visitors. We don't want to see that. We want people to have good memories and a good time.
Point.
So
I think we agree with you there for sure.
Oh yeah. Me and Dan can attest to that. Yeah.
Right on, Natalie. Well, that's all the time we got for today. We really want to thank you for coming by and sharing some info with us. We look forward to doing it again.
Yeah, would love to
big
come
thanks
back.
to Parks Canada. Big thanks to even the town of Banff for working with Parks Canada and getting a nice, safe place for us to enjoy the town and the Banff National Park, as well as tourists as well. So thank you so much for coming in to spend some time with us. And we look forward to having you again.
Cool.
Heck yeah. Thanks so much, Natalie.
Cheers.
We're going to cut back to the show. We'll see you in a bit.
Let's go.
All right. Welcome back to the live show. What great stuff. Huh?
No doubt. Natalie knows what she's talking about. That's for sure. She's very knowledgeable, very passionate, good, just good people all around, man. You can't ask for much more than that from a park employee, you know?
I think you'd be hard to find a bad person working at Parks Canada. We got to give a big thanks to everyone working behind the scenes, not just Natalie. Big thanks to Natalie, though. But there are plenty of people behind the scenes working to not only make that interview possible, but everything that you see around the town of Banff possible, basically. Lots of hard work coming from them to make sure that we're treating this place with the utmost respect.
No doubt. Yeah, there was some pretty cool tidbits in there that I even didn't know, and I've been here, you know, we've both been here like 10 years plus, right? So
for sure.
You're always learning something. I mean, every day you're learning something. So especially with the how far to stay away from like certain species of animals, I was like, holy, that's a long ways away, man.
Absolutely. That's one thing that caught me by surprise for sure was, I might be a little too close at times. I want to give a big shout out to the chat. Nice shirt. Thank you. Got my Defending Awesome tee that we got last week from those guys. I want to give them a big shout out once again. If you haven't checked out that episode yet, go and check it out. You can find it on YouTube, Spotify, YouTube, especially if you want the video, because you're going to want to see that video. They brought us tons of great stuff.
Oh yeah. They came loaded with goodies. It was, It was a little shindig, I guess, or a hootenanny.
It was a party. It was
it
our
was
Sweet
great.
16, and we wouldn't have it any other way. Before we move on to some Overheard stuff here, we got to give a big shout out to my boy Big Kev in the chat, and a special shout out to the local Canmore and Chef John down at the local Canmore.
Let's go.
They've just released a new menu down there. I've been down, checked it out. It's great. They got a great tuna stack. They got salmon. They're serving nothing but Alberta beef down there.
Nice.
They got a great cocktail program. If you're looking to sip on some nice cocktails to wash it down, they got all local beers. They're open daily from 9 a.m. to 10 p.m. They got breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So no matter what time you're hungry, go down to the local Canmore and get yourself a feed, get yourself some drinks. They've also wanted us to let you guys know that if you're out there listening to the Overheard podcast and you mention that you heard about the local Canmore on our show, they're going to give you 15% off your whole bill.
Nice. 15. Let's go.
Absolutely. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, kind of like a little locals discount. If you mention the Overheard podcast, they will hook you up.
Oh,
so,
that's easy.
Too easy.
Dude, easy name drop. Quick little nice little chunk off your lunch there. Buddy, can't go wrong with that.
Quick little how you doing? Big thanks out to Big Kev and the boys down at the local. Once again, Chef John for offering us that deal in the community. So yeah, go out and save yourself some money, get yourself some great food and drinks.
Nice. Like a sweet little locals bonus, Right? We do have that. Certain businesses do have the little local thing.
For sure.
That's sweet of them to reach out and do that for us.
Absolutely. Yeah. So big thanks to everyone down at the local Canmore. Moving on, we got some great stuff from Overheard for this week. Our first one is probably one of my faves of the week. Let's cut to it here, man.
Oh, this is great. All righty. So first one of the day.
He is living a life in that trailer.
It's just so good. So for everybody watching at home, this is a gentleman towing like a small flatbed trailer with his bicycle, fully padded, and there's a dog, just doggos chilling, just laying down, just enjoying life, getting towed around town. This is actually awesome. This is like internet gold right here. You want to cut
the video?
Oh, yeah. Let's go.
So in this video, Matt just explained it. It's actually a buddy of mine, Marco. I want to give him a big shout out. He's rolling around with his dog. His dog is getting a little older in life.
Nice.
Marco, being the great dog owner that he is, still wants to give him the full experience of a dog walk or a dog ride on the bike, for that matter. Some super wholesome content. Looked like it was probably filmed from a nice patio somewhere on Banff Ave. At least Marco and his dog can enjoy the pedestrian closure while it lasts.
Oh, that's awesome, dude. Like, that's straight such a Banff moment. Just buddy cruising down Banff Ave with a dog in a trailer. Like,
so wholesome.
Oh, it's awesome.
Such a cute moment. We want to give a big shout out to Marco. I've actually played some disc golf with Marco in the past. Great guy. You see him around town, don't be shy to give him a little what's up. Let him know that we love his style with the dog on the back.
All right. Well, next one up, we got a little good news here. At the Sunshine Village Resort, looks like we got it's the new Super Lift, I believe is what they're calling it. Is that what they're calling it?
It is the Super Angel 6-man heated chair.
Yeah, that's sweet.
So some big news if you're out there, if you're a skier, you're a snowboarder, you're liking Sunshine Village in the winter. A couple years ago, they put in TP Town.
I was going to say, yeah, the new TP lift is...
Which I believe was Canada's first heated lift at the time.
Yeah, I think it was.
So we're hitting them with another one from Sunshine Village.
Well,
big shout out to them. 6-man chair, heated, covered.
The
with the
difference that makes on the way up, especially for a longer lift like that, right? Like, it's going to be awesome. Like, you get in there, the seats are heated, your feet are heated, you're covered from the wind, you can actually warm up in between...
You're riding in style. You can switch
awesome.
between episodes of the Overheard podcast. If one of them is nearing its end, you can switch back onto the new one without your hands getting cold.
You got enough time on that lift up to go to the YouTube, like and subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you know that our videos are up and our premieres go live. You can also go over to the Instagram. You can subscribe to that as well. So when we post new material on the Instagram, dude, you got enough time to do that plus watch an episode probably.
That's awesome. You would have time to do that on the chairlift app. So big shout out to Sunshine Village and all the improvements that they're doing. Some more good news here coming to the town of Banff in this next post.
There you go, Dan. Farmers Market's back.
So this one here, picture of the Banff Farmers Market. We're back this week from 10
Yeah, the 29th.
6, I believe.
Yeah,
May
29th.
the 29th. The post reads, Banff Farmers Market is back for the summer starting this Wednesday, May 29th from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. in the Central Park. So the same location it's been in a while.
Yep.
If you haven't been to the farmers market, you got all types of local vendors for food, for coffee, for local arts and crafts.
Oh, that's awesome.
This week I also saw my boy Casey. He posted he's going to be playing some music down there.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He said, I forget which time it was. I think he was 5 or 4.
Nice.
But apparently there's going to be acts going on all day. So it's going to be a real kind of block party style.
The first one of the year,
week.
yeah, the first one of the year is usually pretty good. They got a bunch of musicians and like it's just stacked out there. I remember I went down last year, maybe the year before, and it was like you had to wait in line to get in. I waited in line, I think, for like half an hour to get in there. It was awesome.
For sure. And again, every year they kind of have new vendors popping up. Like last week, we talked to our friends over at Defending Awesome. That's where they started. So who knows? You might go down there and meet someone who's on to bigger and better things in the future. So tons of great stuff.
That's right. Well, this next one here, Dan, I want one. The only thing I can say about this next post is that I want one.
All right. So this one here is what does it say? It says, found my ideal Bow Valley home. And for those that are listening in, it's like an ATV with a camper style. Like, you know, the campers that would be on the flatbed of a truck, but this one's in the back of an ATV. Looks super dope.
Yeah, it's like a little back of a pickup capper, but it's literally just a 4-wheeler. It's unreal, dude.
The trail that this thing could do. And oh my God, probably less than, I don't know, it'd probably be like 3 or 4 months rent, but
yeah, but well, I don't know how much one of these would cost, but it's probably AI generated.
A nice alternative if you're looking for one, but you would have to park it outside of the national park because, as our friends at Parks Canada told us, car camping is not allowed in the national park system.
Right. It is not. I did not know that.
Yeah, it's true. I believe back in the day, there was the old owner of Nourish. I think his name was Mark, and he was trying to prove a point. He parked his camper, I believe, on like just in front of his house.
Okay.
Camped in it overnight, and he kept having the bylaw come by, and he was kind of trying to prove a point that like, I live right here. I'm not car camping. But yeah, it was actually getting fined and getting a hard time. If again,
that's funny.
This is not a. I'm just trying to remember this story as I could best back in the day, but yeah, car camping is not allowed. And you'll see people trying all the time.
Yeah.
You're walking by campers is at the end of the night when you're walking home, lights are on. And someone's clearly home.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, you're not allowed. That's why I believe Vanmore is such a thing.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah, because
Absolutely.
you're not actually allowed here. Well, I mean, you can get away with it maybe for a night, but yeah, I wouldn't try that.
I wouldn't recommend it.
I wouldn't try that.
If that's your style, this might be the next big craze. So get yourself one while they're cheap.
Oh God. So when are we starting this? What are we going to do? Like a fundraiser or like a GoFundMe for the next slide?
The next slide raises some interesting questions, I say.
I had a good point earlier. Like we'll switch to the slide. We'll get to it because this is good. So this is the property at the corner of, what is this, Banff Ave and Elk?
No,
Moose.
that's Moose.
Yeah, the newer one that they built. Apparently for sale already. It's only 16 mil.
Clean 16 mil.
Which, when you think about it, isn't really that bad because, like, you know, a nice house in town would be what, maybe 2 mil?
I'm calling it the Overheard Palace. I think if we get enough people together, we can just make a big one apartment.
Yeah,
studio,
like if everybody just
gym.
donates like $1,000 in town, like how many? Oh no, that wouldn't work out. Somebody do the math quick. Whatever we would need.
There was on the post. There
was
was the
there?
math that was done. So give me 1 second. I'll see if I can get there.
Yeah, pop it up
quickly.
and we'll see because that'd be great. You know, the entirety of just the half homeless population in Banff.
So this, yeah, here it is. One of the top contributors says still 420,000 a unit if we split it 38 ways. and you'll need 20% down because of the price point. So 84,000 deposit.
Yeah, but I'm not talking 38. I'm talking like the entirety of Overheard and Banff just pitches in on this place.
No, but I think there's only 38 units in the building, which is the breakdown. So still $420,000 a unit.
But yeah, if you break that up,
pretty
with a couple
affordable for
homies,
the town of Banff, honestly.
I mean, yeah, I guess, yeah. It's just funny to say that, but yeah, like $500,000 is affordable for the town of Banff.
That would be on the low end for sure.
Oh, big time.
Definitely. So hey, who knows? We get all our followers, subscribers together. We'll get ourselves the Overheard Palace. We can all hang out there, throw some huge parties.
Only need another 2,000 contributors, and we'll be fine.
Moving on to the next one here. So this is an interesting post. You might encounter these on your trails in the national park and around. It says, anyone know what these are for? I saw these walking around Johnson's Lake on the loop at a few different spots. For those listening, these are kind of red, I want to say cloths that seem to have something in them that are tied around the tree.
So they're apparently tobacco offerings. One of the comments said they're treated like a traditional native tobacco offering. Often they will be wrapped with an intention or a prayer while they're tying them, and it's just tobacco inside of them. So if you see them, leave them alone. They're there for a reason. Somebody put them there with intent, and they own that land probably more than you do. So
absolutely. So again, these are all biodegradable materials. This is not littering. This is not anyone marking the tree to later come and get it.
Nope.
It is there for a purpose. So if you're encountering these on your travels this summer, I know I love Johnson Lake. I'm there quite often with my partner Nat. One of our favorite places to go walk.
It's awesome.
Yeah. So if you see those, just leave them there. Leave them there, let them hang, let them serve their purpose.
Yeah, just let them chill. Let them chill. Well, the next one here, we're not going to let chill because,
it's
of course, here it's not chill at all. Surprise, surprise.
Another scam alert.
Here we go. So this guy, apparently his name was Adam Smith. So I mean, it's
for future reference, Adam Smith. It's a pretty common name, usually two common names matched together. I would be very weary of. The post is quite extensive, but basically it reads that this gentleman was interacting via email with this other guy. I can't really read from here. It's a little bit small, but basically he thought he had this place lined up. Turns out he didn't. Just another scam. If you are communicating with a Adam Smith, Alan Smith?
Adam. It said Adam, I think.
Adam Smith. Yeah. So if that's who you're interacting with, trying to find a place, maybe try another time. So keep your eyes and ears open out there. Housing scams still alive and well.
Yeah, and I don't know. It's getting even harder now because people will just straight up go on like a real estate listing. So it's not going to be something that you're even going to come across as a duplicate rental. It's gonna be just something that is definitely way out of your price range. They'll post a bunch of pictures. They'll take all the pictures from there.
Yeah,
I think that's what happened with the last one. The guy took all the pictures from a Remax.
Got shown the place.
Yeah,
too.
That's right. Someone got shown. That's
further.
Wild. I forgot about that. I wonder how the hell they even pulled that off. That's like an inside job.
If that was you that got taken advantage of, that actually got shown the house, please contact us because we want to know more about this.
Yeah,
story.
That'd be cool to have you on for like a little chat to see what's up. Like, how did they get into the house? Like, how did they show you the house? And then it's just, it's wild.
It's getting out of hand for sure.
But be careful out there. There's lots of information online, and you can always cross-check stuff. I know her name's Cindy from Bow Valley Home Finder, and Brittany Hillerman from there as well. I think Brittany's a realtor, so like she's got inside scoop on what flies, what doesn't. Couple of good people to reach out to, and that whole page, if you're weary of an ad, go to Bow Valley Home Finder, post it on there and say, hey man, does this look fishy to anybody? And I guarantee if you have to do that, it's probably fishy anyways.
And I mean, that kind of goes both ways too. Like if you're posting a place for rent amongst all this,
that's a good point.
This trash that's being put out there, or all these scams that are being put out there, that's got to be difficult too. So I mean, the more we can get down, the more we can report these accounts that are doing these scams. I think that's a big thing too, is if you're noticing something's not right, contact the admin, report the account so that they can then moderate on their end. It's much easier once it's actually been reported.
As soon as you have any proof of it being a scam, or if it even kind of looks like it, most of the time they'll chop that post anyways, and that's the end of it. They don't want that for their page, and at the end of the day, nobody wants that for anybody in the community either. So
nobody got time for that.
Nope, hell no. But I don't know what these guys were thinking, but they definitely didn't have time to wait.
Moving on to something a little more lighthearted to finish our post. So this one here
the classic
reads, "So it begins." And for those that are listening in, you have a beautiful picture of the north end, I believe, of the Banff Ave pedestrian closure, with a roam bus entering said closure with a lovely Jeep following behind.
Not too far behind the bus.
Not too far behind the bus.
So this is a classic thing. Like so they have gates on Banff Ave. If you don't know, or if you've never been here and you're listening, it's basically they block off all of Banff Ave. They have gates at each end so that when public transit comes up, the gate opens, lets the bus through, and then the gate closes, right? Well, it takes a second for that gate to close, right? So if you're in traffic and you roll up behind the bus and you go to pull in there, you can just go before you even saw the gate open or close, and then you're on a pedestrian walkway, basically going, oh no.
You're probably on the slowest ride of shame of your whole life.
Oh yeah,
honestly.
You're going to be going 10K for the next 2 blocks.
And it stops at the bus stop too.
Every stop. So you're gonna, people are going to be pointing and laughing if you're doing that. But
100%. Or taking pictures.
Or taking pictures and let us make fun of you on the internet. That's kind of how it goes, I guess now, right?
100%.
But
absolutely.
The parking posts these last couple weeks have been classic. I think it was a few episodes back where like guys send in the parking posts, like let's see them. I think the one week we had 3.
Yeah, it was wild. That was last week. Yeah, we had a ton last week. I remember going into work on the Saturday, maybe it was even the Sunday of the long weekend. But the whole train station parking lot was full, and then all around like the border of the parking lot where there isn't parking spaces was full of cars.
Oh wow, I've never seen it like full before. Crazy.
So at least the intercept part of the parking is working. That was full. Like it was pretty insane.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, that was one good episode there, buddy. We had some Parks Canada on there, giving us some useful advice for the crazy wildlife season coming up.
I think it's already here, honestly.
Well, yeah, I mean it's happening, man. You're gonna I saw elk today. I saw elk yesterday. They're already in town. So like Nat said, calving season's here. Keep your head up, as Don Cherry says. Keep your head up and Keep your head up and your stick on the ice. But
love it.
No, it's true though. If you got your head down and you're walking and you come up, me to you away from an elk, like you're gonna get punted. It's 100%. Gonna suck.
I think we get complacent at times, especially as locals, we're here all the time. We kind of think, oh yeah, all these warnings are for other people. They are in fact for us, and not only for us, they are to protect the wildlife as well.
No doubt.
The more wildlife get accustomed to people, the less they're scared of us. The more human wildlife interaction happens, and that's when animals actually, unfortunately, have to be destroyed.
Right.
We've read it a bunch of times over the years. Unfortunately,
the wolf pack,
it does happen.
Bears and
obey all wildlife signages and closures, and we expect more from Parks Canada. Not as far as performance, but as far as content in the future.
Yeah.
Very excited to have them back and dive more into initiatives and more into wildlife safety for everyone, because I definitely learned a lot.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, like I said, we've been here 10 years and we're still learning stuff
how
about
to coexist.
this gnarly place that we live in called the beautiful Rockies.
Yeah, for sure. Now, on to something else. We did record another interview.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a secret. We're gonna hold off. Expect a bit of a secret bonus episode from us this week.
Yeah.
In the next few days, we're going to put the finishing touches on how we're going to present it. But we had another very special guest in today.
Yeah, it was back to back today. We had
back to back. We had a very busy day here at the studio. Yeah. Stay tuned for that. I want to say maybe Fridays, maybe Saturday. We're not too sure yet. We got some very special stuff coming your way. So stay tuned. Other than that, let's check the notes here. I think that's all we got today. I want to give a big thanks to our guests. And just like every week,
see you next Tuesday.